Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Great Falls, Montana.
January 4th, 1991. I'm interviewing Ted Gibson. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Great Falls, Montana, but I was raised in North Dakota.
Where were your parents from?
My mother was from Powers Lake, North Dakota, and my dad was from Great Falls, Montana.
You know, your grandparents?
Well, I remember my granddad and my grandmother, they were from Montana. My great-granddad came from Randolph County, Tennessee. And he fought in the Mexican War, and then he was in the gold rush in California, in the gold rush in Colorado, and in 1861 he came into Montana for gold. And then he had a ranch there, and then he was a freighter, freighted supplies from Fort Benton to Helena for some time. I've been out several times and tried to find his grave, but I've never been able to find his grave yet.
Where did you go to school?
Went to all my school at Powers Lake.
How old were you when your dad died?
I was 11. There was 5 in the family, and my youngest brother was only 18 days old when my dad died.
What did he die from?
He died from TB. At that time, they didn't have all the medicine for TB they got now. So he only lasted about 6 months after he got sick.
Did you go to Montana to work?
Yeah, in 1936 it was real dry around North Dakota. No work to be gotten. So me and another fellow got on the boxcars in White Earth, and we rode the boxcars to Whitefish, Montana, and then we went to Kalispell. And there I found work for a fellow by the name of Jake Loudon, and I worked all summer. And I made $120, and I saved $110 of that. And in October I came home again, and the day I came home they took my mother to Kenmore for a gallstone operation. And the gallstone operation in the hospital cost $110, and that's exactly what I'd made, and I paid for that cash for the hotel, or for the hospital and the doctor bill.
When were you married?
I was married in Los Angeles in 1941, August 1st.
Were you drafted?
Yeah, before we left North Dakota here, a lot of the fellows had to sign up for the draft before we left. So when we got out to California and got jobs out there, we were actually some of the first ones to be called in the draft in North Dakota.
Where did you go? The boot camp?
We came back to North Dakota and I went in the service on May 21st, 1942. And then we had 10 days to go and settle our business. And I left again on Dolly's birthday, that was June 6th, for Fort Dolly. And we was there about a week, and then we was transferred to Jefferson Barracks, St. Louis. That's right out of it, or Jefferson Barracks, Missouri. That's right out of St. Louis. And that's where we had boot camp.
How did you get to Australia?
Well, we left, took a troop plane from Jefferson Barracks to San Francisco, and we was transferred out to Angel Island. That's an island right alongside of Alcatraz. And there we were outfitted for the South Pacific. We get out there at about 9 o'clock at night, and in the morning we was all there on the ship, and we were shipping out. We went under the Golden Gate Bridge just as the sun came up in the morning, heading for Australia.
Well, what was your job there?
Well, after we arrived it took us 42 days and 42 nights to get to Australia. And then we landed in southern Australia. And then we took a train up to northern Australia. That's where we That's where our camp was, and we set up camp there. And we was pick and shovel for a long time. Then we built 18 supply houses that was supplied for material and workshops and everything else. And then after we got that all done, then I was in the motor pool. I drove truck and then I drove heavy equipment.
Did you meet any civilian people in Australia?
You know, oh yes, we had good friends there. In fact, I sang in a quartet there where we sang for 6 months every Friday night. We sang, and then a preacher, Baptist preacher, preached, and we sang 2-3 songs every Friday night.
How long were you gone?
We was gone for, well, all together, you mean?
Yeah.
I was gone for 39 and a half months, a little over 3 years.
Do you have any close army buddies?
Oh yes, I had several. I had one from heading to North Dakota, Don Quickston, and he died several years ago. And I have one that's still living, and his name is Lawrence Terpstra. He lives in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I have another one, Otto Glass. He lives in Clearwater, Florida. And then another one, my quartet. He was, I can't remember what his name was now. Yeah, Jared Shepard. He lives in Clearwater, Florida. And I think that's all the close, really close buddies I had.
Do you have any war stories that you could tell?
Well, yeah, when we left Australia, we went to New Guinea. There we was in the harbor there waiting for a convoy. And I knew Lloyd Enget was up on this hill. It was a mountain about 7 miles up this mountainside. So I got permission from my CO to go up and see him. And I never forget when I walked in the tent there, he didn't know I was coming. He couldn't talk. He got so flabbergasted he couldn't even talk. But anyhow, I got to stay overnight there. The next day was Christmas. And that's when we pulled out for the Philippine Islands on that convoy.
What did you do at the Philippine
And
Islands?
then when we got up to Leyte, Leyte is the island next to Luzon. Then I was put on a detail. All we did for 6 weeks, we took apart 2 GI trucks. We take them apart, load them on the plane, and then we load them off the plane and put them together again. That's all we did for 6 weeks. So then when they invaded the Philippine Islands, the Luzon, we was the first plane to come in and land on the field there. And we landed and we unloaded the plane for fire. The Japs shot us while we unloaded the plane, but we got the plane unloaded, although they did hit the tire. I never forget the one that our cook, he was a great big guy from North Carolina. And when they started shooting at us, he got right up against the tire, and a bullet hit the tire, and the tire exploded. And he says, "My God, they got me." But they didn't get him at all. He just got scared. But we did get the plane unloaded, and then we was there for. Oh yeah, I was going to say that before we landed, the 11th Airborne Division secured the field at 9 o'clock, and we landed at 11 o'clock. And there was small arms fire all around us. It was a day in March. I'll never forget that. But we billeted in tents there, and there was, I suppose there was about 35 of us. We was there alone for about 2 weeks until some of the rest of our outfit came. But we was just a supply outfit there. We had some ordnance, and the rest was Air Force.
When did you return?
Let's see, the war ended in August. I never forget when the Japs envoys came to where we were, where General MacArthur was. All the Filipinos, they threw bricks at the Jap cars. And they were so mad at the Japs. And when we got to the Philippine Islands, we was told if the Filipinos caught a Jap, just don't bother with them. Let them take care of it. And I was driving a big semi hauling goods from down at Pier 8, from the docks. And we came upon I seen him, and I knew another guy from the United States just got over there, and I was teaching him how to drive this semi. And we came up on all these rickshaws. That's where these little horses pull these two-wheel carts. And so we stopped, and there the Filipinos had a Jap, and he had a wire wrapped around his head. And he was pulling him down the street. And this here new fellow says, "We got to stop that." And I said, "No, we got orders. We don't stop that." And then when he went under, then they'd pour water on him, then they'd kick the teeth out, then they'd pull him further. That's the way they treated Japs. But you couldn't blame the Filipinos, because I've seen Filipinos with their ears cut off, with their tongue cut out, and their nails pulled out. That's how mean the Japs were to the Filipinos. So we just let the Filipinos take care of the Japs that they caught.
What did you do when you got home?
Well, let's see, we sailed for home in, I think it was 21st September. I think we got home the October the 6th. And then we sailed on a great big Navy ship that held about 5,000 troops. And there was about, I'd say about 2,000 aircraft on there, and about 2,500 prisoners of war. And these prisoners of war, they've been starved for 3.5, 4 years, and they was nothing but walking skeletons. And I know I only weighed 140 pounds when I left, but I didn't know they had that much food left in the world, because they had all kinds of eggs and ice cream and fresh milk, and we could go to the chow line as many times as we liked. So I was on the boat for 21 days, and I gained 21 pounds in 21 days.
What kind of work did you go into when you got back?
Well, when I come back, then Earl was going into the ministry, Earl Grubb. And then he held a job to work for Standard Oil, so that's what I did when I come home. Then I took over the Standard Oil bulk as a bulk agent in 1945, the fall of 1945.
And it came to pass that as soon as the days of his ministration were accomplished, he departed to his own house. And after those days, his wife Elizabeth conceived.
Over in Norway, and as they came over to the United States, there were so many Engets that they took on the name Enget.
Okay, this is Justin Holman doing an interview on Avery Enget and Dolly Gibson on the Enget family. Okay, my first question is, where did the family originate, and what did the name Enget mean?
Well, our family started with the name Olsen over in Norway, and as they came over to the United States, there were so many Engets, or Olsens, that they took on the name Enget. And originally the name Olsen came from Ole's son, which was Dad's name. And so we picked up the Enget name here in the United States.
Okay, and where did it originate, the family?
In Verdalen, Norway. It's in the southern part of Norway.
Okay. And how did they get to the U.S.?
I don't know exactly, but I think by some ship. I don't know the name of it.
Okay, did they come for religious freedom or something else?
Yes, there was a group of them that came over for religious freedom. And as you know, the state church of Norway was Lutheran. And this one group of people felt that immersion was the only way to be baptized. So they would be punished in Norway for being baptized that way. So they came over for religious purposes.
Okay. And why did the ancestors stop here in North Dakota?
Well, they first came to Minnesota, Breckenridge, Minnesota. And Avery, you can tell about the, why they came to North Dakota.
Well, as far as I know, they came because of the Homestead Act, which gave people the opportunity to come into North Dakota and claim their property. It was a one-time deal, I think, and I think you could claim 1/4 of land and gain possession of it through that Homestead Act.
Okay. Who was the first ancestors to stop here? And of what relation were they to you?
Well, there were some of Grandpa's brothers, which would be our uncles, that came over and found work so that they could send for their parents and some of the brothers and younger brothers and sisters that were still in Norway. And so I would say that they were our uncles, first ones, among the first.
All right. What was Grandpa Enget's occupation?
Well, basically in the old country, I'm sure the family was engaged in farming and
You kids?
We went out
keep the circle and we cut it into 4 pieces. Steel sticks, so what they just run sheep run.
over.
The spring of the year, we'd go out and snare gophers off school grounds, and we'd bring them back into the barn. And we'd try to train them as pets. Once in a while, we'd get bit with a gopher, but that didn't stop us from going after another one. And then we'd drown gophers quite often. And then at home, I think where we lived, there was some pretty good sized hills, and we'd go sliding, sometimes on the scoop shovel or whatever we had, and skate. We lived
Right by
on
the
the
lake.
south side of the lake over here where Phil Hexton's are now. And so we had good skating most of the time. Yeah. And we'd ride horseback. I did especially, and Rayburn, and I don't know if Herbert did too much.
Okay, how many brothers and sisters were there?
There were 7 brothers and sisters. There were 4 girls and 3 boys. Every other one, starting out with Margaret, Avery, and Dolly, Rayburn, Doris, Herbert, and Adeline.
And did you guys like hunt and for food or anything, or did you just?
Well, we didn't hunt for food. I think it would have been pretty slim picking if they had to depend on me. Because I remember when I first got my gun, I went out to hunt, and I couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, so I thought I'd down the lake shore there was seagulls, just white. You couldn't even see water. So I thought, well, this time I can't miss, but I did.
Okay, what did you do for like decorating the house and stuff like that?
Well, our furnishings were not
Quite simple. I think
Yeah,
most of the time.
quite simple. We had, like at Christmas time, we always had a Christmas tree. And I do remember when we had lit candles for our lights on the Christmas tree. They were clipped onto the branches of the tree. And of course, but they couldn't leave the room, with them burning for fear the tree and everything would catch on fire. But other than that, we didn't have a lot of decorating, and we had mostly pictures on the walls were family pictures, usually, of which we still have some of those left. In fact, they're upstairs. And
Yeah, there was no electricity those days, so we had the makeshift lights were gasoline or kerosene lights. So as far as decorating a tree, it was with an open candle, wax candle kind of thing.
Okay, you guys are talking about the stoves in the school, and I was wondering, what did you guys burn?
coal, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically you start out with wood to get the fire going, and then you have to carry coal from the wood coal bin over to buckets and feed the stove every so often, you know, to keep the fire going.
And the teacher, that was her job. She had that besides teaching. There was no custodian. So she'd have to come early enough so she could try and get the... It was just a one-room school, you know, get the room heated.
All right, and where did you guys go for church?
We went to Bethel Baptist.
Here.
Yeah, here in town, after they moved it from the country in to town.
Yeah.
That was before our day, of course. But we went there all our lives.
In fact, it was in the same block where the church is right now, only it was more to the front of the street of the old church. You've probably seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
I think basically we're quite faithful as far as when you consider the mode of transportation. In the wintertime, of course, we can always come across the lake, you know, with horses and sleigh. It was a fun time.
I don't think we missed church ever.
Well,
I'm
not
sure we did.
had.
But I mean, not very often. It was,
As a general rule, I think we made every effort to. The one thing about the winter times, you'd probably park the car, such as it was, an old Model T, because there was no road, so you couldn't get through anyway. And, probably take the battery out of it, put it in the shed someplace, and drain the oil out of it, and depend on the horses for the transportation. And you mentioned coal. We had to haul the coal. Dad used to go down White Earth Creek with team and sleigh or wagon, depending on the time of year. And it'd take him all day to go down there and back. And he'd probably come home with a couple ton of coal. And he'd be long before daybreak, get home after dark.
I remember him telling about sometimes too when he'd be gone, it would be storming so bad that he could not see tracks where he had gone down. And I remember him telling about letting the reins of the horses free, loose, so the horses found their own way back home because he was lost. He couldn't see where he was going. But the horses knew the way.
Okay, and how about the kids going to college, and how did the economic times affect that?
Well, we grew up in the dirty 30s, when times were really, really tough. And there was very few kids that got to go to college that I even know of. From our graduating class, I'm sure there wasn't.
I think during those days, the big emphasis was on getting through high school. College wasn't really stressed, I don't think. And I did have a chance to go to Fargo for 1 quarter, which I don't know why, but at least I got to see the college. No degree.
All right. Well, I'm wondering, what did you do first to get a job? What was it?
Well, I think my experience was mostly farm labor during the summer. I'd hire out to different people. Some of them, probably mostly during the harvest season, probably shocking or hauling bundles and a thrashing rig, or things of that nature. And then also at one time they had a project they called NYA, which was a National Youth, and they started a big garden down in Wider, and I think it was probably about 15 kids employed, and we got about $15 a month for taking care of the garden.
Okay, what about you?
Well, it was usually helping out in cleaning, house cleaning, or doing something like that. And during high school days, I did waitress work in the cafe. And later on, I did some clerking in stores.
Okay. Okay, you guys were up here by Philip Hegsted's. Did you stay here through the whole high school years, or did you guys move or anything? Or?
We moved to town before we started high school in about 1935.
Before that, we moved to the Flats.
Yeah.
We lived there for about a year and a half. And then we came, and we lived in Aunt Mattie's place during that time. And then farming really became tough. It's hard to get paid for the cattle, and during that summer, or the fall prior to the fall of '34, the government came around and they bought cattle for $20 a head. And the calves, I think we got like $7, and they'd kill them right off the spot. Just, I guess there was nothing there to feed them with, so they bought them for little or nothing. And we struggled through that winter. By spring, when we let the cattle out, some of them died from starvation, and they were really tough. Then Dad decided to quit farming, and we moved back to College Lake here. And Dad got work as a carpenter's helper, and Dolly and I started high school then in the fall of '35.
All right, I was wondering about what kind of equipment did you use for farming, and what kind of wheat you used for planting, and what kind of bushels to the acre you got.
Well, now you're getting down to nitty-gritty. Well, the farming methods compared to today were pretty antique, I would say, but they did the basic job. But for power, we used horses. We plowed with a gang plow and 5 horses, or we'd have 4 horses on a disc, or 4 horses on a drag. And we'd raise some feed and some wheat, and some years we didn't get any, and that's the way it continued for a number of years. And of course, all our feed for the cattle, they used to thrash during those years, and we'd have to haul our straw with teams and fill the barn up probably once a week with straw to feed the cattle. And we'd probably milk 7, 8 cows to keep milk and cream and butter on the table, and
Raised chickens.
raised chickens. Now I think one interesting part of that was Mom had bought this incubator and had their own eggs for chickens. Had this little incubator, you remember that?
You know how she got that?
Yeah, she got some money from someone.
Inheritance from her dad that passed away in Norway. And she got enough money to buy that incubator and a piano.
I remember that was in 28, I think. But it was exciting, I think, during the hatching time of those chickens. They did peep peeps, you know. And,
We had it right in the house,
Yeah.
so you could watch through a little window and see them.
eggs started breaking open with little fresh new chickens in it. It was fun. And then we used to raise turkeys. have our own garden and potatoes and vegetables.
But picking turkeys wasn't much fun, but we all did it. All.
That was just prior to Thanksgiving and probably Christmas both. They dressed turkeys for shipping and selling locally too, so it was not a real pleasant job, but it was just accepted, I guess.
Okay, I'm wondering when did Grandpa and Grandma die?
Grandpa died first. He died in October in 1963. And he was, well, prior to that, he had been sick for quite some time. They found out cancer, and that's what he died from, in the Howard Lake Hospital.
When was he born?
He was born in 1982.
You don't know the day?
Yeah, May 25th.
What about Grandma? When was she born?
She was born June 24th, 1890.
She died.
She died, let's see, July 15th, 1985.
Alright, and I'm gonna go into your personal life now, Grandma. Okay? Now, when did you meet Grandpa?
Well, I think I'd known him most of my life, or at least after we moved to town. And I started going with him in my junior year in high school. And I graduated in 1939. And then I went out west, or to Reno, Nevada, with Vernon and Hank Ryan. He was teaching school there. So I went with them to Nevada and got a job there. Just whatever I could get. I didn't have work. And in any particular, I worked as a maid in homes. And then on about, this was in 1940. And then Grandpa and his brother Les and Lloyd decided to go to Nevada and California. They were going to go to California to see if they could get work in the airplane factories, defense plants. So they came by Reno and they picked me up and took me along to LA. And they did get work in the defense plants. And they worked there until the war broke out on December 5th, 1940.
December 7th.
December 7th. Was it
41.
1941? Yeah. That's right.
Okay, when did you guys get married?
We got married down, no, it had to have been 40. No.
From Arbor Day.
Okay, anyway, we were married August 1st, 1941. Yeah. And then, of course, he didn't work very long in the defense plants because they were drafting men to go into the service. And see, they had registered in Burke County in Bowville before he went west. And so he was called back here to be drafted. And he left for the service in June, on my birthday, June 6, 1942. And was gone from that time until he was discharged, October of 1945.
And what was it like during that period?
Well, pretty hectic for me, of course. Thea was born during the time he was gone, and she was born February 13th, 1943. And he was shipped overseas. He never got a furlough. He was never home from the time he left, and that was 3.5 years that he was gone. And but he was sent to Australia, and we felt real good about that because he wasn't right in the thick of it, you know. He was worked repairing planes is what he did, his job. And then he was sent on into the Philippines from there, and he was there for quite some time. Until, I think, D-Day was, I have that written down here someplace, but I'm not sure the date. Yeah, that was December 5th, 1944. That was the Normandy beachhead is what it was famous for. And finally, the peace treaty was signed between Germany and the U.S. in May of 1945. And then Ted spent 21 days on the Pacific Ocean coming home. And he arrived in Seattle October 3rd, 1945, and came by train then to Minas, where Avery took Thea and I down to meet him. And when she saw her dad, she had never seen him in her life except just pictures of him. And she picked him out of the whole troop train that came in, and she says, "There's Daddy." So it was pretty special.
Okay, what about the economic times during the war? What was it like then? Was it great times? Or?
Well, we were on rations for, we had ration books that we got for sugar and butter, wasn't it? And, no, coffee and sugar ration books.
Well, basically, I think it was pretty good. Tires were tough items to get hauled out. I remember that. Gasoline. And cars, you couldn't get any cars. They never made cars from the year 43, 44, and 45. Those are just blank years. But they never manufactured any.
What was that?
Because they made equipment for military use. So if you look for a 43 or 44 or 45 Ford, you won't find one.
Okay. Okay, what did you do during this time? Both of you did during the war?
During
what kind
the
of
war?
work?
Well, I stayed at home with the folks, my parents and my brothers and sisters. And of course I had Theodana, well, he was gone, so I had a job taking care of her. And I helped as taking care of the household because Grandma Enget worked as telephone operators in the telephone office during that time. So.
And I tried to train Nuki to be an acrobat.
So how did that work out?
Well, it did pretty good as far as it went. I used to be able to hold her up with one hand, stand up, pull her, shoot down, stuff there.
I got pictures of that. Yeah, she was tiny little gal.
Tiny, but wiry, I think,
Yeah,
and very well balanced.
You're serious about being an acrobat?
Her, not really. I mean, not with that in mind. Just that we enjoyed playing with her and we'd play catch with her once in a while, Rayburn and I, and toss her between us.
Oh, I see. Nice. Okay, and what about the other kids? When did they come along?
Oh, I didn't even write their dates down. I hope I can remember.
I do
Jerry.
remember the names.
Yeah, Jerry was next in line, and she was born in 1946. And then came Nathan, He was born in, oh, if I got the date right on that, 47. And Vaughn in 1949. And then when Ted got home here, he worked, got a job for Standard Oil, and he was bulk agent then for all the years until he had his heart attack, which was in 1970, I believe. And then he retired.
Okay, and what kind of college experience did they have?
Our kids?
Yep.
Well, Thea started college. She was going to go into nurses training, but I think she went in 1 year, and then she quit. And Jerry went to a beauty school and took a course in beauty operators. And Nathan and Vaughn, of course, both went into the service when they were old enough, and they were in there until however long they had to be in. I can't remember if it was 2 years or something like that, 2 or 3 years. I can't remember just what the length of time was. And then they both started college, but they said college was not for them, so they just dropped out. But they did obtain jobs, pretty good jobs. And they've all married, have very nice families. They got some very nice grandchildren.
Yeah, especially Jerry's kids are very
Yes,
beautiful.
well, then
Especially the one.
Yeah, I think his
The
name's
comedian.
Justin. I'm not sure.
I've been the closest, I guess, to them. Thea and Chutter have lived in Mesa for over 20 years. So,
Okay, you're talking about Bonnie and Betty going to Vietnam. What was that like? Were the people around here against Vietnam too, or was...
we didn't hear that much about it here. Nathan went to Germany, and Vaughn went to Vietnam. Yeah, I guess I didn't really know the feeling that there was about the Vietnam War until it was all over with. But he was a pretty lucky boy to have escaped injury. And then he came home and it was a pretty tough time for him. I know that, but they got through it, both of them.
How did it affect you? I mean, was it worse than when Grandpa went to World War II, or was it?
Yeah, that was tough, pretty tough to have him take off and leave, but I said having Vaughn leave for Vietnam, I think was the hardest thing that I ever went through. He was so young, he was only 17, and just out of high school, and had never been out of the States until he went into some training, you know. Then he joined the Marines, and that was pretty rough going all that time that he was gone. But the Lord saw him through it, and he came back, and he's done pretty well. All of them, I feel, have done real well.
Okay, I've already asked you about what the war was like for you, but what was the war like for you, Avery?
Well, I guess I was fortunate in one way that I never did pass the physical to enter into the service. We were called to report in the Adolf Jurgens and the Obert Enget, and I forget who else might have been, but I know Adolf, for one, was so certain that he would never pass and get into service because of his and I'm sure I was a goner, and I remember going through the physical, and towards the end of the physical they took a big little red pencil and put a big check mark across the thing, and I know what was wrong. Anyway, I had a hernia at the time, they wouldn't accept me because of that. So I went home a free man, and they went into the service. And, I guess that's the end of my war career.
Oh, it's physical, like.
Oh, that's frustrating. Especially when you're, I guess they kind of herd you through like a bunch of cattle, You're a bunch of fellas just stripped completely, going through a line. It was something you can't hardly explain. Humiliating, I guess.
You never had anyone in your family go to war?
No, I didn't. Dwight, he was eligible for the draft, and then all of a sudden they stopped drafting for a while, and then they went into the lottery system, and I think Dwight drew a number like into the 300s just before they quit even calling for those. They did not enter into the service because of they didn't need it more then at that particular time.
Did you notice any increases in wages when the war was on, or both being
Well,
on?
I can't say that. It might have been in different places, but I was such a homeboy. I guess that evidently I didn't take advantage of it. And, for whatever was available around here, it couldn't go more than one way, and that'd be up, because we were at the bottom of the pay scale, definitely. And it was just basically survival. Even after high school, there wasn't a job to be gotten really out here. I worked 75 cents a day out in Bill Grubbs doing haying and we did chores. We probably put in 12 to 14 hours a day and board and room along with that. So now you guys think you're underpaid.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, getting back to when Grandpa retired because of his heart attack, what did you guys do after that?
Well, in 1971, we took Jerry and Chris along to Arizona. We went there and stayed for about 3 weeks to a month, visiting Thea and Tedder. And I think Chris was only about a year old, 2 years maybe, because he walked. And then after that, we went back in the winter time, spent 17 winters in Mesa, and for about 3 months out of the year. And we celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary, and we celebrated our 50th together with families on both sides of our family attending, and all our grandkids and all our children being here, and it was a very, very special time. And lots of relatives, families from many different states, in fact, were here. And then Ted started a little later on that year. He wasn't feeling, very well. He started having back problems, and he'd go back to the doctor and find out just what was the problem, and they just didn't seem to could find out. And whether they didn't know or didn't tell us, I don't know. But anyway, it was the cancer reoccurring. And then in February of last year, which is the 92, which is down this year, or yeah, last year, we went back to Mesa and spent about 3-4 weeks with Thea and Tedder. And we came back home, and he was gradually getting weaker and hurting more and more all the time. And but we were able to keep him home here and took care of him right at home. And he passed away in May 26, 1992.
Okay. That's about all I have to ask